Good afternoon. This is Priscilla Kakeritz, CEO at EnergyPrint. Welcome to our webinar. We are really excited today to share a great success story with you. It's an amazing use case for combining benchmarking and building automation. And I am pleased to have with us on the webinar today, John Pierce, who's the real estate manager for HOM Furniture and a longtime EnergyPrint customer, and Deepinder Singh, who's the CEO of 75F and a new collaboration partner for EnergyPrint. We are going to share a lot of great information and a really fun story with you today in the webinar. So for about the next 25 minutes, we're going to go through a lot of content, but we do hope to have a few minutes at the end to answer some questions. And so if you have questions during the webinars or curiosities or comments that you want to share, use the question panel and chat those questions in. And again, we hope to have a few minutes at the end to share a little bit more information. During the webinar, we're going to cover very quickly here on the front end. Each of us are going to give a little introduction so that you know who the companies are who are participating and why, what we do and why we've been working together to share this story. And then we're really going to dive into the case study specifically of HOM Furniture and their success in using benchmarking and building automation data. And you're going to hear some great points from John Pierce about how this is valuable from a business perspective. And then again, at the end, we'll jump to a Q&A. So I'm going to kick things off just from an EnergyPrint perspective. We were founded in 2009, based in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And our goal really is to make it simple to find, track, and prove energy savings. So we track thousands of buildings across the US and Canada and deliver utility data and analytics that helps our clients engage in simple and useful energy saving strategies. We try to make it simple to obtain and understand utility data, and then useful in finding opportunities and proving results, which we're going to share a story of that with you today. Benchmarking isn't rocket science, but it's kind of complex. It's a lot of data, and trying to turn utility data into simple analytics and good business pictures is a really important piece of our business. We make sure that we take out those challenges of gathering and validating data consistently, and we standardize data across the thousands of utilities in the US. And then ultimately, we're working to visualize things in a way that drives action. It really is our mission to help make utility data useful for our clients. In our case study today, we're going to talk to you about how HOM Furniture really used benchmarking to look at answering key business questions, to see how their buildings were doing across their portfolio, and to target some opportunities to improve buildings and then showcase those financial savings and results. And ultimately, how they've used our tools from a data and dashboard perspective, and really looking at how analytics and then people support that decision making and helping to implement things across their portfolio. So that's the quick introduction on EnergyPrint, and now I'm going to ask Deep to give you guys an overview of 75F and their company. So Deep.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the lead in, Priscilla. From 75F's perspective, we are really on a mission to make people more comfortable and productive while saving energy. So we don't think that the two are in opposition, and they should always work together hand in hand. And the way we do it is we have a complete building intelligence solution, we call it. So it's a vertically integrated out-of-the-box solution that includes sensors, actuators, control solutions. We have a gateway that takes in all of this data. And then we have a huge amount of machine learning, or what's called artificial intelligence, which is hosted in the cloud, that goes ahead to actually aggregate all of this data, make sense out of it, and essentially deliver to our customers two key operational facts that we call it OE squared. So what we want to do is want to make sure that the occupant experience is very high, so that the occupants have the optimal indoor air quality, they have the right temperature, and they have the right lighting, so that their performance is improved. But at the same time, from a facility manager's perspective, we target what's called operational efficiency. Priscilla, the last slide, please. operational efficiency, which essentially means is how is your entire building portfolio doing, and is it truly giving you the energy peak optimal energy efficiency that is actually you deserve, right? So it's actually about space management, it's about energy savings, it's also about equipment life cycle in terms of figuring out when your equipment is going to fail and how long is it that you can extract value out of that equipment. So the two key things that we combine is what we call machine learning, again, that artificial intelligence, and applied IoT. It's the Internet of Things. Essentially, the two combine to deliver these two benefits. Next slide. Right. And from the actual facility manager or the building owner, what they can really expect is, we call it the triple bottom line, right? It's the people, planet, and profit. So you end up expecting higher comfort, better indoor air quality, a huge amount of labor savings. And that's one of the key things. And about for us is that we wanted to make sure that there's a solution that is easily deployable and something which is non-disruptive, right? And you expect about 30 to 50% in energy savings, and also a remote management which allows facility managers complete access to their entire portfolio in terms of how their HVAC or lighting equipment is doing.
Excellent. So thank you, Deep. I think that's a good introduction into EnergyPrint and 75F. And now I actually want to introduce the key player, because John Pierce is going to help us fill in the gaps about how energy benchmarking and building automation have really helped home furniture. So John, if you would start with just an introduction to home furniture and the role that you play there.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks, Priscilla, Stacy, Deepinder for having me. My name is John Pierce. I'm the real estate director for Home Furniture. If you don't know who we are one of America's largest furniture retailers. We're located here in the Midwest, Minnesota, Dakotas, Iowa, and Wisconsin. And yep, we sell furniture.
So excellent. So John, just to tee up this case study, how is home making a difference with energy savings, and how did you guys get started, and what role did EnergyPrint play for home, kind of starting back at the beginning of things, your smart building, save energy ideas?
Sure. So, yep, as I said, I'm real estate director here at Home Furniture, and we wear many hats. We're a family-owned company, so we try to operate as lean as possible, and whatever savings that we can kind of figure out within our operational organization, we try and pass it on to our customers. So in that, we wear many hats. I try and do everything I can to be as efficient as possible. With that, I take EnergyPrint, and it is basically my blueprint of how my buildings are running, and I check that daily, if not every couple of hours, seeing where we're at, what kind of metrics are coming in, and just use that as my kind of my blueprint of how our facilities are running. As you guys probably aren't aware, we are one of the largest recyclers in the United States, specifically here in the Midwest. We do a ton of good as far as recycling goes. And then obviously with all this Internet of Things coming out, we're trying to be more operationally efficient, and having EnergyPrint in our back pocket to kind of prove some of our data metrics and our points just makes the best business case for us.
Excellent. So I'm going to jump in and do a little teeing up of a particular project that EnergyPrint, 75F, and Home Furniture have worked together both to identify opportunity and also to demonstrate the benefits of benchmarking and then taking action through building automation. So I'm going to set this story up, and then Deep and John are going to help me tell it as we go through this particular case study. So for Home Furniture, like John said, we've been benchmarking Home Furniture's buildings, goodness, 6 or 7 years now. So we've got a good amount of data on the portfolio, and when John logs in, he can see on his dashboard how his buildings are doing and very quickly identify which of the buildings in the portfolio are getting better or worse from a cost and consumption perspective. And this really helps him to prioritize what those opportunities for savings are. As they look to improve buildings and make some changes, they identified one of the stores in Plymouth as an opportunity. In the picture that you're looking at, we were looking at how did Plymouth compare to the rest of the home portfolio, and we could see that from a consumption perspective, it was using more energy. And so this was one of the projects that they targeted to really look at deploying 75F's capability to see how they could better control, better optimize the particular location. So with the Plymouth location, they identified some specific needs in that store. They had some RTUs not operating properly. Obviously, cost was significantly higher than their peer stores. And they were really looking for some advanced scheduling and more automation for the building. And so, John, I'd like to ask you, you know, as we look at this picture and we can see here now where 75F entered the story and did some installation, tell me about how you got to know 75F and what drove your decision to use this technology to improve the store in Plymouth?
Yeah, so we had been kind of looking for an energy management system to pilot at a couple of our stores, to operate that more efficiently. Adam Beeson was our sales rep with 75F, and I got to be honest, he just did a great job following up with me, making sure that all my questions were answered. We had a number of meetings with our ownership group to kind of discuss, what it is that 75F brings to the table, how it works. Because we hadn't seen it proven in a facility as large as ours. Our typical footprint per store is 100,000 square feet, so we just wanted to make sure that it was the right fit for both us and 75F to partner together. In the long 4 years, I think that it finally took them to land us. I do have to say I kick myself every day for not getting this implemented a lot sooner. So it's been a great partnership. We're happy to have 75F. They're far exceeding their expectations as far as our return on investment.
Well, and we'll get to see that return on investment here in a couple minutes. But first, Deep, I want to ask you to really share with the group on the call today the solution, the overall solution and the role that 75F played in implementing it.
Got it. Thanks. So basically, in this location that we're looking at, Home Plymouth had 22 existing rooftop units, RTUs. So they received what we call our OA, or outside air optimization solution, which is a very advanced form of economizing demand control, ventilation, and essentially kind of regulates the amount of air which is coming into the building and pressure control. The second piece that we have is a 75F central controllers. Remember those pieces that I talked about in the hierarchy. So we have the sensors, and then we have the 75F smart node that goes and acts on the actual equipment in terms of the outside air dampers. And then we have the CC, or the central control unit, and that's the heart of the brains of the local control. So both of these were deployed in, and then of course the cloud solution comes along with that, and that forms the central nervous system, so to say, that takes in data from each of the CCUs within a building and then determines holistically how to run the building optimally. So that also allows remote monitoring and control of all the units, and the alerting system, which is very flexible in terms of getting email alerts, messages, or if you have the 75F app, then you get direct notifications as well. So next slide, Priscilla.
Tell us about how the implementation actually went into place.
And this is one of the key things that with 75F we've done. Instead of us going in and trying to install the solution ourselves, what we actually do is we take the customer's mechanical contractor and we train those guys to go put it in. That means A, that you're working with somebody that you're already comfortable with, and B, that when those folks come in to do your regular scheduled maintenance, then what would happen is that they're already familiar with the solution. And this is a big departure from our perspective from traditional control solutions, which have traditionally required like experts who come in and make a custom solution and require a huge amount of learning. In our case, we've abstracted all of that knowledge and we've put it in software, so it's really, really easy to implement. So each of the RTUs themselves, they took about 4 to 6 hours to complete. In fact, by the end of it, Legacy Mechanical, who was Home Furniture's mechanical contractor, they did the install. I mean, they were literally whipping through the stuff well under four hours at the end. And remember that these folks had not installed before, so I mean, they became experts on the installation as part of this one project. So the installation was done in September over a 2-week period, and all the work was done during normal business hours, so it didn't actually require any disruptive changes to the building itself. And one of the things that we do provide is on-site training for the contractors. So we have an online portal that allows people to access videos and see how to learn how to install the system. Typically that takes about 30 minutes to 1 hour. But then we also have an on-site training program that goes and makes sure that from a physical perspective, they're doing the things correctly, at least for the first 1 or 2 rooftop units.
Excellent. So what about the cost breakdown of this project? Because this is going to play into our savings story.
Absolutely. So the actual project cost about $60,000. There's about a 50% split between the equipment and the install labor. The rebates from the utilities kicked in about $6,600 as well. So these were part of what are called prescriptive rebates, right? So these are rebates which are given by the utility just based on the control measures or energy saving measures that we implement that the utility recognizes out of the box. And thing is, we can actually apply for what are called custom rebates. We've already started getting some feedback back that the custom rebates are going to be about 2.5 times larger than the $6,600. About $15,000 is what we're getting for some of the stores that were submitted for that. The problem with the custom rebates is that it actually takes longer. So you kind of have to weigh the benefit of, like, are you losing enough in your energy savings itself? That is it going to be worthwhile to wait for the utility to approve those custom rebates? But there is a decent chance that once it is, if you have a large portfolio, then it may make sense because the utility can have some scale in terms of approving those custom rebates for subsequent stores. But in this particular store, as I said, it was about $6,600 prescriptive rebates, non-custom.
So looking at kind of the floor plan, just give us a little bit of idea of what you guys are controlling in this particular building.
Yeah, so you can see over here that basically we have each of the 22 rooftop units arranged on a floor plan. And this is one of the beauties of the 75 system is that it's relatively easy to set up and relatively easy to visualize as well. So you can see over here, each of the rooftop units is arranged based on its location and what area it's serving. And just at a glance, you know whether each of the systems is working perfectly or not. And we can see over here in this example specifically chosen that RTU6, the temperatures are much higher than what we expected. So it is actually working suboptimally in this particular case. We did find out what the problem was, and we have a concept of what's called outside air temperature lockout. So the idea is that you don't want some cooling until and unless the temperature outside is above a certain threshold. So that was actually enabled in this scenario. But the idea is that it's very easy to visualize it and see at a glance whether the system is working correctly or not. And when you hover over this data, we'll come to the next slide. When you hover over this data, each of the RTUs, you get a far more in-depth sensors which are working over there and how the system is operating. And as an example, you can see over here, the light blue color says that free cooling is being used. And you can see that in what's called the tooltip. Also to tell you whether the operational mode is automatic, whether it's in cooling mode, and what the average temperatures are, what the desired temperatures are. And also, one of the very interesting things is right towards the bottom, you actually see what's called outside air damper position. Remember, I talked about the fact that we actually end up optimizing the amount of outside air that we're getting in. So you can see that the outside air damper was 22% open at this point, and we're opening it up partially to let in the free cooling kick in. So it's not something that just simply turns on and off, but it's a completely modulating system that varies the amount of outside air depending on the requirements within the building.
Thank you. And John, I just have to ask you at this point, how easy is this system for you to use? Because for, non-technical people, this looks relatively simple, but it's a lot of data. So how is this for you being able to control and work with the system remotely?
So I literally cannot say enough good things about 75F's application. What Deep is showing you here on the panel, the webinar, is the desktop view. What I typically use is my iPhone application, and the way that it makes my life so much easier is, I mean, we have 18 facilities that I have to operate and maintain. I can have a showroom manager specifically in our Plymouth location tell me, hey, we have an issue with RTU 3. This is our mattress department where the temperatures are down to 66. Can we jack that temperature up to 70? Well, yeah, I can pull out my phone and I can turn the temperature up for them. Or we'll have issues where like a belt will break and they'll say, hey, it's, Saturday morning, we're about to open to customers. We got to shut this RTU down. And I can just say, hey, no, wait, let me turn the thermostat off. Let me schedule a non-emergency mechanical tech to come out on Monday and perform it then. So not only are we're operating more efficiently, we're saving money on getting techs out there, but we're also making our customers and our employees happier.
Well, that's always a good thing, especially for us customers who are coming furniture shopping. So
bingo.
Let's talk a little bit let's talk about the savings though. This has been an amazing story from a success perspective, and I'm not sure, John, exactly what you guys were expecting, but I'll go through a couple of slides here just looking at what's happened from literally 5 months ago to current. When we've just looked at 4 or 5 months of data, we know that these buildings, this home furniture building, was performing at a level that was much higher than the rest of the portfolio. And now we look at, as of January 2019, these utility data points had come, relatively into line with each other. We can look at from a weather perspective. This is a building that really didn't correlate well with weather, but we see on these endpoints now where this project improvement, we can see that consumption is coming into line and performing more as we would expect it to. And from an Energy Star perspective, this building was at a 42 and is up to a 69. And what we see from a trend perspective is this is probably a building that could be Energy Star certified within a year, based on the improvements that are happening. But I think the best news is this is about $20,000 of savings in just 5 months, and the payback period you guys are looking at is really less than 12 months, especially with the rebates. So how important is this project and this case study to what you guys plan to do next within the home furniture portfolio?
Yeah, so it's right now I've kind of made it my priority number one as far as our initiatives go in the energy aspect of my position. So as we let Deep and the rest of the 75F team know, is getting the metrics from EnergyPrint really helped prove that, all right, this does have very good weight to it. We're seeing a really good return on investment. And then there's also all this cost savings that you don't even see on EnergyPrint. The drive miles it takes from a mechanical contractor to come out and troubleshoot a unit, whereas now I'm just doing it from my iPhone. The amount of time it takes for my real estate techs to change the thermostats and do that every single quarter, because I mean, as you know, here in Minnesota, we go through quite a bit of seasons. I guess the biggest thing that we took from this is, well, it's for sure we just go to the energy, portfolio-wide rollout. So we are rolling this out to all 17 of our locations. We've begun the process, and it's just, it made so much sense that instead of having it just in 1 or 2 locations, it now has to be everywhere so that we can just operate the whole thing from one app, and everything kind of works seamlessly. And obviously with the metrics that EnergyPrint has, we proved our point that it's got a ROI that's pretty dang good.
So what would you say to other leaders about the value of using benchmarking and building automation in tandem? What has this experience meant for you as a real estate leader?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the big thing is, you have plenty of people that come to you every day and they have these ideas, grandeur ideas. Hey, I'm gonna do this. Here's the payback I'm gonna give you. I mean, it ranges from solar to lighting controls. I mean, EMS is obviously one of them. There's a number of things. Well, having EnergyPrint give you that exact analytics of here's the real numbers that you're seeing. This is actually real life comparative to having, your weather normalized and stuff like that. It is by far the best partnership you could hope for. not only, I mean, even if you have to take a shot in the wind and try, you know, any kind of lighting controls, energy management software, 75F specifically, you're actually able to put real hard data to it and say, well, now you gave me a conservative return on investment of X, now I'm getting Y, Z, and then the whole alphabet all over again. So it's just, the partner's phenomenal. I couldn't have chose better folks to work with.
Thank you, John. That's very good.
So we do have a great savings story on this Plymouth store. I know that you guys are looking at rolling out additional 75S implementations, and we look forward, obviously, to showcasing more and more of those savings. As we wrap up here, we've got a couple of minutes, and we have had a couple of questions come in that I'd like to put out. And Deep, this first one's probably for you. Somebody was curious about how many control points were used or are part of HOM's system in the Plymouth store.
There's somewhere like for every rooftop unit, there are probably about 200-ish control points which end up coming in. But the beauty of it is that it's all automatic. It's not something that has to be manually provisioned. So I mean, independent of, we don't look at control points as a way of measuring things. We just look at the number of equipment, things which have to be controlled, and they automatically get provisioned. So there's no incremental change with the number of control points per equipment.
Okay. And I know a couple people were curious about you mentioned earlier about the technology, and you guys installed everything during the normal course of business. So is there any disruption, and John, maybe this is a good one for you, was there any disruption to your normal business going through this installation process?
Not one bit, not one bit. And that was that's a key thing for us, is when we don't have to have installs like this happen after hours. So we're staffing the facility and, you know, doing a number of things to accommodate folks. This happened all during normal business hours with zero disruption to our customers.
And I'd like to restate, I mean, that to us is the key end point with 75F, is that, I mean, not only are we want to be non-disruptive, we also want to make sure that your current mechanical contractor, your service contractor, is the person who's installing these, right? So that they can actually maintain it. So it's a great new tool for them as well.
Another question that just came in, Deep, and I think that you can address this one. People are curious about whether 75F has performed any other integration to or conversion away from other EMS type systems, and just what happens if you guys go into a building where there already were some existing controls?
We have done retrofits for buildings which have existing controls a number of times. Typically speaking, we have ended up between 30% more efficient than a typical EMS system. And the key to is that we have some very proprietary algorithms which are by themselves called dynamic airflow balancing, and now this outside air optimization, which have by themselves have been shown to increase energy efficiency by about 24 to, in some cases, about 40%. And this is in third-party utility trials. So there's a fair amount of benefits to doing that. What we do a complete retrofit though. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're coming down to the line here on time, but John, I've got one more question for you that is a curiosity, and that is, you guys have been benchmarking buildings for 7-8 years with us and had this access to this information, and you met 75F obviously a few years ago. Why did it take so long for HOM to start this improvement journey? And you know, what is next on your list here for the future?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, the reason it took so long is because, you know, we just needed to prove the point, prove the analytics. We did the rollout at our Plymouth location. Deep not only proved his analytics and his return on investments, but he's far exceeding them. So, I mean, I'm happy to say, quite literally, we are rolling this out to our entire portfolio immediately. Just having the partnership between 75F and EnergyPrint, being able to show you the exact analytics of what you're saving, it's the perfect partnership. They go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Well, thank you so much, John and Deepa. I want to thank you for being on the call today and for everybody who joined us. I hope that this was a helpful story. Please feel free to send us feedback. We had a couple other questions that came in that I'll make sure individuals get answers to those questions. So if we didn't have time, I apologize. But again, we appreciate it. The recording will be available if there's other people you want to share this with. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so